Welcome to episode 158 of Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua Hanlon.
And I'm Matthew Kay.
And this episode of Beyond the Brick is brought to you by Brickmania.com. For a limited time, get free shipping on orders over $100 at Brickmania.com. So if you've been wanting to make a purchase there, now's a great time to get some free shipping on whatever Brickmania purchase you had in mind. I'll make sure to put a link to their website in the description of this video so you can check them out. And a reminder about our Brickworld Chicago Kickstarter project. It's still going on. If you want to get a DVD with some really cool exclusive content from Brickworld, interviews with builders, things like that, this is your chance to get that. We've still got some great rewards from builders like Grant Davis and Tyler Kleitz. And we're working toward our Beyond the Brick minifig stretch goal. So all sorts of cool stuff still available over there. I encourage you to check that out. And all the reward levels are open worldwide, so anyone in the world can support at any of the levels and get the cool rewards. I'll make sure to put a link to the project in the description of this video as well. Now, we're very happy to have a great guest joining us on this episode. His name is Jetro de Château, and he is runs HispaBrick Magazine at HispaBrickMagazine.com. He is 42 years old and a language teacher and translator. You might see him on sites like Technic Bricks, and he's a member of the HispaBrick Magazine lug. So it's great to have you on the show, Jetro.
Thank you for having me.
And if you just want to start off with some of maybe your history with LEGO and then kind of move into the history of HispaBrick Magazine and how that was founded.
Okay. I've been playing with LEGO since I was, 4 or so. My mother got me these little kits, and I remember the horse that you had to build and the cowboy that went on it with no legs. Anyway, that's one of the first sets I had. My brother and sisters sort of inherited the Lego as I got a bit older and lost a bit of interest. But when I moved to Spain, I remember seeing a news report in which there was an art installation that used Lego robots. It was like sort of robots are actually moving, and it turned out to be RCX bricks in a big art installation. And that got me really interested. So I started finding out what Lego there was now, what sets were available, how I could purchase them. Got myself an RCX set, and then I started digging on the internet trying to find out what else was available. The lugs, if there was a group in Spain, the whole LugNet network and stuff. And that's how I started again.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, that's neat little. So you kind of got in with the robotics type end of it then. Not usually your typical, a lot of people came in with like Star Wars and more system type. It was more the robotics that got you into it.
It was definitely a robotics. Yeah, I remember as of age 10, 11, I think my father brought in the first Technic sets. I remember the blue helicopter and the forklift, yellow forklift. I really liked those, and I sort of stuck with Technic more than with system. So when I got back, it was Mindstorms and Technic mostly.
Interesting. That is very interesting.
Mm-hmm. So how did that transition then to HispaBrick Magazine and your involvement with that?
Well, I like doing stuff with Lego on my own, but I also wanted to interact with other builders, so I was on the lookout for a lug. I discovered there was a lug in Spain. I joined it. They had a first event. Met some really nice people at that event, and some of these people suggested to make a magazine. The idea behind the magazine was that there were certain things happening in the lug, some users who made some very nice builds, and we thought it was a shame to lose those builds in a very quick time span because, well, you know how it is with news. The moment you've seen it, it's old, and it sort of wanted to make it a little bit more long-lasting. And so that idea came up, and the original team that started the magazine polled a number of users on the forum to see who might be interested in participating in it. So I volunteered to write an L-Draw tutorial, which I did for about 17 issues, and then I sort of ran out of material. And that's really how the magazine got started, and how my involvement in the magazine started.
Now,
originally, the magazine was only in Spanish because it was specific for the lug.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, it was published online, and we got a lot of feedback from lugs in neighboring countries asking, could we maybe translate some of the articles? Would it be possible to do an English edition? So we brainstormed the idea, and in issue number 2, a couple of articles were printed in 2 languages, both in Spanish and in English, but side by side on the same page. and the feedback was overwhelming. The number of downloads, well, I don't remember the exact figures from the time, but they doubled and tripled, and so we decided to make the effort to put out 2 identical magazines, one in Spanish and one in English, as of issue 3, and that's how it continues up to today.
Now, 2 of my favorite things about HispaBrick is the fact that it's free. You know, you go to the website and there's a PDF right there, and you can just download it and pore over it. And then also the fact that it's open. Like, you know, there are contributors from all over the world, and there's always just a revolving door of really interesting articles. Could you talk about that? Like, how does it maintain that free status? And then how does it also kind of pull in builders from around the world?
Well, the free status is a question of mindset. We considered it to be a hobby thing. We didn't want to get any money involved in the project, because the moment money gets involved, things can get awkward, and we didn't want the money to get in the way of our hobby. Okay? So we decided to do that way. We do have some support in the sense that Lego does send sets to review, or that a publishing house might send us a review copy for a book. So we do get some kind of support. But all of the work is just done on a voluntary basis.
Sure, it's not viewed as a for-profit venture.
No, there's no money coming out. There's definitely money going in. Yeah, and a lot of time and effort goes into the magazine. So how do we keep it open? Well, that's the first thing. How do we keep it international? By looking around. Of course, we get feedback, not as much as we'd like. Considering the number of downloads we have, the feedback is, well, we'd like to have more. Occasionally people come up with ideas, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? And our first immediate response usually is, well, would you be able to do that? Would you like to participate with that? You know? Yeah, because it's very easy to give suggestions, but putting them into practice is a whole different story, you know? So somebody comes up and I'd like to see an article about this and that because I think it's really interesting. So, okay. Would you like to write the article? A second way to get international, well, to get people in internationally is by approaching them. We see a builder we like on Flickr, and we just send off an email or Flickr mail and ask them if they would be interested to do an interview. We do get suggestions occasionally from people. Why don't you talk to this guy? Why don't you talk to that guy? Going to different events. Some of our members are quite the travelers, and they go to different events around Europe mostly. So you meet AFOLs, and then they talk to them and say, well, would you be interested in writing an article? I'd like to see this in the magazine. Could we do an interview? That's how we get our materials.
Yeah, that's just a very, you know, kind of upfront sort of like, well, do you want to do an article? We can. I imagine people are very willing to kind of collaborate if there's obviously not like a profit motive, right? Maybe people are like, oh, well, this is for the community, so I'll contribute too, or maybe does that attitude ever kind of make itself known?
I'm not sure if that is really the attitude that motivates people. I think what's more important is the fact that people see, oh, I can participate in this thing. I can be an author. I can write an article for a magazine, and that's becoming a more and more powerful motivator. That's
really cool. Yeah, I can help. Yeah.
So obviously you've had a lot of different contributors here over the years. I think it started in 2008. Is that correct?
That's correct. We started. I've got a start date somewhere here in March 2008. There were 3 people initially who started the magazine, and Carlos was one of the first. He was our layout editor, our editor-in-chief up to now. He decided to step back after the last issue, and so we're reorganizing things now, trying to see who can do what, because one of the difficult things here is to make sure that the job is shared, you know, that everyone has well, not an equal share, but that the tasks are not focused wholly on one person. Layout is a massive job, and none of us have any training in that area, so it's just
that's awesome. Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. See what comes of it. Yeah. Occasionally we get suggestions. Yeah, because we'd like to see a layout that's, you know, in such. Okay, well, this is what we can do. Our very best. We try to improve in any way we can, but there's certain limitations to what we know and what we can do. But we have fun doing it. As long as we have fun, we'll keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So, are there kind of areas of the magazine that you keep the same as far as like reoccurring themes and articles? I think you said you did something on, was it Eldra or something for several issues? How does that usually work?
Well, it depends a bit on the idea. We do have our preferences. I mean, I'm the Mindstorms guy.
Okay.
Mindstorms and Technic. So I try to make sure that there's something Mindstorms related in every issue, and Technic if possible, wherever possible. We do have an ongoing Mindstorms tutorial by one of the members of the Lug who participated from the very beginning and keeps it up. He's a teacher in a school who uses Mindstorms in that school, so you've got the education background there. At the moment, we've got 2 collaborators from 2 different South American countries participating with We Do articles, which is like junior Mindstorms.
Mm-hmm.
And the Eldro tutorial I started, I think I gave up after 17, after 17 installments or so, because there wasn't really much more that I say about it or wanted to say about it. There's certain areas that we've never touched upon, like Bricksmith, because I don't use a Mac. And there's certainly more going on, and future issues I do expect to see more about those topics. So it really depends on whether a topic lends itself for an extension or if it's just a one-off.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so how then does the, you've talked about all these different people from all over the world that are collaborating on this. You can talk a little bit about how that collaboration usually works. Are you communicating via like Skype online, or how does that work, and kind of deciding on who's going to write what for each issue?
Yeah, that's actually very simple and very straightforward. Once we finish an issue, we start a new thread in the forum where we discuss what we would like to see in the next issue, or rather what we would like to contribute to the next issue, and everyone just chimes in with the ideas they have, and we see how feasible they are. To give you an example, you see something happening online, I don't know, a build that draws your attention, an event, a new product line, and maybe somebody suggests, could we do something about that? I'd like to see more about that. I've done a couple of Lego education sets because I'm really interested in that. I'm a teacher, I have kids, so I wanted to learn a little bit more about that. I just got in touch with Lego Education, asked some questions, tried to find the right people. Lego is very helpful in that regard. They really do make a special effort to make sure that we talk to the right people wherever possible, that we get as much information and feedback on products that we want to investigate a little bit about. And, well, we just go through the list and see what comes up. And every time it's a surprise again to see that we run up to, well, about 100 pages in the last 10 or so issues.
Very interesting. And the Lego content that the magazine has is oftentimes, it's fantastic, you know. It's like a little window into the company.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we try to do is to make sure that it is as diverse as possible.
Mm-hmm.
We could fill it up with reviews, but that doesn't make much sense. You know, we do try to have a couple of key reviews of very recent products, or maybe a vintage review. But we do try to make sure that we have a designer, a builder, an interview with a Lego employee, something in the education group, something in Mindstorm, something in different areas, so that the magazine is as diverse as possible.
Sure,
and then we
sure.
try to come up with ideas that we haven't done before. We featured an article about Lego therapy, working with autism spectrum patients, kids mostly, using Lego in that environment, using Lego in different environments. We did an article about using Lego in the English as a foreign language classroom. We did an article about using Lego in a reinsertion center for people who just sort of fell out of the labor market and needed to, well, had a burnout or something and needed to get back into their lives, and they used Lego in a center to get these people back on their feet. So
yeah, like
we're
so
always
sort of
a little
non-traditional, like April hobby.
variety.
Yeah. So it's not just someone sitting down and building a train layout in every article, right? Like these are like non-traditional kind of sort of focuses.
No, well, as I said before, none of us do this professionally.
Sure.
None of us have jobs that are in any way related to magazine publishing. I mean, I'm a teacher and a translator, so I do take responsibility for coordinating the translation effort, which is another thing that we can talk about in a minute. But it just whatever comes up. We do appreciate when people write for us, because it takes a lot of the load off.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you approach somebody, you say, we'd like to do an article about this or that, and sometimes they're not, well, they're a bit reticent, you know. Maybe you'd like to ask me a couple of questions, or I can give you some information and you can write the article. Well, anybody can write an article, really. We're always willing to give some suggestions to help you structure it, maybe give you some questions to guide you through how to set up the article, how to make it interesting, give you some feedback after you submit a first draft. But I'd much rather have other people write the articles than having to write them myself.
Sure, and it broadens the focus, and I mean, if you had like 4 people writing the same article about building a castle in every issue over and over and over again, that would just be like, oh God, come on, you know?
Not again.
Yeah, again. But you go out these topics, the therapy sessions and the reinsertion program, and that just like sort of, you know, you open the magazine and you're looking at something really different, and it's just wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is really neat.
In that context, again, on the continuity, some of the fixed sections that we have is like Pillars of the Community, in which we talk to the people behind some of the big forums or other entities that make up that support the community. We had a section was 5 questions to mostly LEGO employees. We have a section that is Great Creators of the World, in which we highlight a particular builder. So yeah, we try to make that kind of continuity so that we know that we have certain sections where we can fit different people into.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned a little bit ago there about the translating. If you want to talk about that, you said that's kind of one of your areas that you cover most of that.
Yeah, I do a lot. Well, the thing is, I remember in issue 2, we discussed the possibility of translating the magazine, and we discussed what it would cost. And I'm a translator, and I really didn't have an idea. Okay, so I had a look at the page count and the word count, and I made an estimate, and I thought, I mean, nobody is ever going to be able to pay that. Where are we going to get that kind of money? And then on a regular basis, I mean, a one-off maybe, but just impossible. So we looked at other opportunities, other possibilities inside the community. Who was able to write an article in more or less understandable English, so that they could give me a copy of their article in both languages? Could we get people to write articles directly in English? Because translating from English to your language is always, well, how do I explain this? If you learn another language, it will be easier for you to translate from that language to yours than from your language to the other language that you learned, because you don't have the same grasp of grammar and vocabulary. Okay, so it's a lot easier for the Spanish writers to translate something from English with a decent translation from Spanish into English. Okay? So we can divide part of that load by getting writers to write in English and then translate into Spanish, and our articles are mostly in Spanish and we translate them into English. Occasionally we get a bit of help. People either submit articles in 2 languages or they offer to translate a portion of something. I try to coordinate it. You will notice that the articles are not perfect, that the vocabulary and grammar, I try to make sure that they're good enough to be easily understood. They don't need to be perfect because the original writer wasn't native anyway, and I really can't spend the time that would be necessary to make everything perfect. So as long as you can read it, that's my mission, that's my goal.
Do you ever have a situation that arises where like someone writes an article like maybe in Japanese, and then you have to translate that to English to then take it into Spanish? Has that ever come across?
And we've had the inestimable participation of, I can't come up with his name. This is unforgivable. But anyway, there's an AFL in Japan, an American by birth, and he translated a Japanese article into English so that we could publish it in the magazine and then translate the English version into Spanish.
Oh man.
I've also received English articles or articles written in an attempt at English that needed a lot of restructuring, a lot of rewriting to make sure that everybody would understand what was said in the article. But that's not a problem. We can do that.
Mm-hmm.
No?
So maybe here's another question. This is interesting to me. If you were to open up another language like vertical, so you have Spanish and you have English right now. If you were to do a third language, what language would that be? And assuming that's not too crazy, it probably is too crazy. But like, if it's not too crazy, what would be the third language if you had to pick one?
Well, if I look at the statistics, the third language should be Chinese.
Really?
Huh.
Yes.
Really? I was
Yes.
going to say that, but I didn't say that because I thought that was like too far off. Chinese.
Yes.
That is very interesting.
At this moment, we make a big effort to filter our data for downloads because you might get a bot that downloads 1,000 copies of the magazine, and you can't really put them on the tally because you know they all came from the same IP and they were all downloaded in a certain time frame, so we remove them from our count. In the last, I think it's 8 or 9 issues, the average number of downloads has been in the area of 27,000. Yes.
Wow.
The best number so far, let me just see if I can find that number for you. We had over 40,000 downloads of issue 18.
That is
Wow.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And well, the other issues, the thing is, people discover the magazine, they read the latest issue, and then they realize it's number 22. There must be 21 more. Downloading. So with every new issue, the counter for the previous issues increases also.
Yeah.
Readers. So since we began, we've had over 300,000 downloads.
Wow.
At least the ones
crazy.
that we've been able to keep track of, because we used to use Mega Upload for a while to host our magazine. And
Until
when
it got shut down.
lost. So
The
yeah, we get
FBI says sorry for
download.
that.
If you break that down by countries, then the USA takes about a little above 10% of the downloads, and China is very close. It's either just above or just below.
Oh wow, that's fascinating. And so the majority of the downloads are from.
Well, that's really hard to say because the largest, for 2014, the largest percentage of downloads from a single country was from China, which was about 15%, and the rest is
Really?
all fractured
Broken
into
down.
countries. I had
Wow.
over 11% for the US, then Spain with 6%, Germany, Britain, France, the Netherlands, Italy, Canada, all around 3%. Australia, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, the Russian Federation, Mexico, Portugal, go on. And those are all above 1% in the
Wow.
total value of downloads. And then there's a bunch more countries where we get downloads
So
from.
you really do have a truly international publication. That's fantastic because you see other readership figures, and it's like 90% in the United States, and then fractions of a percentage for the rest of the world.
Mhm. Well, I think there's 2 reasons for that.
Mhm.
One of them probably is that the magazine is free.
Always helps. Always helps.
There's a crowd. At least initially. If they stay with you, it means it's not only free, but probably some good.
Yeah.
The second thing is that we're really grateful to the different lugs around the world, and especially to a number of strong Lego blogs that always publish the announcement of the new issue of the magazine, which means word gets out, and people around the world who follow those blogs or who participate in those lugs know about the new issue. We make a strong effort to get people to post it on their forums so that they know that new issue is out. And once they know about the magazine, they subscribe to the newsletter, then it'll be easy. But so they have that first contact. We really appreciate all the effort that's being made in different lugs and by different blogs to announce every new issue.
Sure.
Yeah, it's awesome
Get
when
the word out.
yeah, community kind of helps get the word out, especially since obviously, like you said, you guys are kind of doing this just all voluntary and spending your time putting together this really awesome publication. It's nice that some of these sites will help out and spread the word about it. And so I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the show when I was introducing you, but HispaBrick Magazine actually has like a lug that did that kind of come out of the magazine, like as the people working on the magazine, you guys decided to make a lug, or how did that work?
That's the way it went. Yes,
Okay.
we decided to concentrate our efforts and as a group to set up a lug that is the primary focus of the lug is the magazine, and then all the other stuff that happens around it that we put that in the lug. We have a blog as well, but we don't put as much effort into the blog as we put into the magazine. Maybe we need to up that a little bit. But our main, our main focus is not the blog. We do use the blog to create a bit of expectation, to keep people to do not occasionally, to add at certain regular intervals, keep HispaBrick Magazine active in a way so that it's not dormant for the 4 months between issue and issue, but the main effort really goes into the magazine.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So kind of keep the main focus on the magazine then. Does the people, the builders in the lug, do you guys have like physical Lego shows you ever do throughout the year?
We do. We just had an event in the Bilbao area here in Spain, in which members of other lugs also participated. A collector fair where Lego now has been present for a number of years and has earned its own little area. We have the HispaBrick Magazine event for 2015, which will take place near Barcelona, in Terrassa, in the History for Science and Science and Science and Technology. Okay, which is a very nice place. Over a day and a half. Last year we drew over 9,000 visitors who came to see the exhibit in the museum. But we're a very small group. At the moment, there's a little core of 5 people making the magazine. The lug isn't very big. So this year, for example, in order to be able to participate in the Lug Bulk program, we've teamed up with a lug from Portugal who were kind enough to allow us to join them. So it's a fairly small group. So we don't have the possibility of doing many events, but we do like to get together once or twice a year and see what everybody's been up to and build something together.
Totally.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think you are, we were talking about this before the show, I'm pretty sure you are the first guest we've had on from Spain, so we haven't had a chance to discuss too much about the kind of Lego community as a whole in Spain. Are there a lot of lugs there, or is it just a few kind of main lugs that most people join? How does that usually work?
There's a number of lugs in Spain with different conditions. There's localized lugs, there's national lugs, but with different focus. And there's a HispaBrick Magazine lug, which is centered around the magazine mostly. So there is some activity in Spain.
Okay, so you got some, like you said, there are a few shows I think you mentioned there that you guys do throughout the year. Are there bigger ones that several lugs try to show up at, or what's one of some of the biggest shows there?
Well, to be quite honest, I'm not really up to speed with that. I
Okay.
have hardly enough time. Work and family and holidays, it doesn't always work together to make sure. Plus, the minimum distance I need to travel to go to most of those events is somewhere around 300 miles, which is not too far, but you can't do that every week, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So yeah, there's some background then on kind of the Spanish community. Then do a lot of those lugs try to participate with the magazine? Sometimes you get people from other lugs outside of the HispaBrick Magazine group to participate with the magazine.
To be honest, the people who participate in the magazine in Spain, they're all part of our lug.
Okay, so it's pretty much
Lugs are
central with
not
that.
inclusive. Okay, you can be part of more than one lug, and we try to have all our we encourage all our at least Spanish-speaking collaborators to participate in the lug, because that's the place where we organize the next issue of the magazine, where we brainstorm about what articles to include, where we talk about submission deadlines, where we organize and manage the magazine itself. So it makes sense for those who at least speak the same language as the majority of the lug to be present in that forum, in that lug forum, for the preparation of the magazine. People from outside, well, they all have their handlers. Each member of that little nucleus is responsible for making sure that those people he or she contacts turn in their articles and provide pictures with good quality and resolution in time so that we can do the layout of the magazine. It takes a lot of work. So we usually have a submission deadline of about a month to 5 weeks in advance of the publication date of the magazine, because we need to first make sure that we have all the articles, that we have all the artwork. Then we need to correct the original version, check for grammar and spelling and stuff like that. Sometimes you need to, edit a bit. Then all of that needs to be translated. Then the 100 pages of each issue need to be laid out, and then that layout needs to be copied over again into the second language, into English, because we make 2 magazines. I mean, it's 2 100-page magazines that come out every 4 months. So it takes about a little over a month to get everything ready after receiving all the articles.
Wow. Yeah, that is quite something there. You guys really got it. I guess you need a good organization then to make sure you can get all that done on time for each issue.
Yeah. So earlier you asked, do we do Skype calls and Hangouts and stuff? Actually, most of the communication happens either on the forum or through email. Okay. And we use Google Drive, and we all have access to those documents, and so we can make changes in real time, and we ask people to just either send in an attachment or upload it to Google Drive, send us a link so we can use the article and modify it. And that has given us a lot of flexibility, because the nearest member of the lug, well, the nearest member of the small group, let's put it that way, of the editors of the magazine, lives about 120 kilometers from here. That's a little under 100 miles. The next one is, let's think, about 600 miles. So there's distance.
Yeah.
We don't meet up in person.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you think that there'll ever be like a HispaBrick Magazine Fest or something in like Madrid as like an international convention?
Well, we do have the HispaBrick Magazine event, which will. It's not been officially announced, but it will be on December 5 and 6 in Terrassa.
Okay.
The announcement should be out any day now. We're just trying to remember who was going to do that. And then we all get together, or at least we try to all be there and see each other at least once a year, if not twice.
Sure.
We went in Bilbao a month and a half ago. There was 4 of us. So that's a good count for a small group. For December, we hope to all be there, and some others, and then we have a little time to discuss some things face to face. But mostly it's just emails and telephone calls.
Sure.
Yeah. So it sounds like that works well for you guys. Then you're able to keep that going nicely. So for people who might be interested in checking out the magazine, what's the best place to keep up to date with it and kind of each issue when it comes out?
Well, of course, the best place to go is HispaBrickMagazine.com. That's our website. Okay. You can subscribe to the newsletter. That's where you get access to download to all of the previous magazines. If you want to see magazines 1 and 2, the website is published in English and in Spanish. So when you come in, you'll probably see the English version, but you will see a Spanish flag and an English flag in the top left corner. If you click on the Spanish flag, you'll see issues 1 and 2. If you're in the English version, you will not see them because they're not in English. Some articles of issue 2 are in English, and none of number 1 is in English, and we're not going to translate those. More than enough work goes into make it to the next issue to do that. We've had a lot of requests from people saying, "Why could you please?" Some of the information is old. Some of it was written by people who are no longer active part of the community, and so you would have to get their permission to translate and publish the article, and we're just not going to go there. It's better to just focus on
Just
what's
leave it be, right? Just leave it be.
Yeah, but anyway, those early issues are still available. You can see the pictures. If must be, you can use Google for what's going on there, and all the other issues are simply available in the list for download. So that would be the place to go.
Okay. Very nice then. I'll make sure to include a link to the HispaBrickMagazine.com website in the description of this video, so anybody who wants to check that out, you can find that nice and easy, and head on over there and make sure. And like you were saying earlier, all the previous issues are available as well, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so yeah, if you want to go back and catch up on all, how many issues have come out up to this point?
We're working on 23 now, so there's 22 issues for you to download, 20 in English.
Okay, so should keep you busy for a while if you haven't read any of those in the past. Lots of cool content there. And to kind of transition into some of your more personal building now, you were showing us before we started the show some cool builds you're working on as kind of part of a collaborative type display. If you want to show those now and talk a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, I'll let me see. A couple of years ago, I was thinking about how to build something, a kind of landscape that I could easily store. Okay? Because just building a little house or a castle or whatever and not having any landscape around it just makes it look, well, a little naked.
Sad.
Sad, yeah, that's the word. Okay,
Yes,
so I was
yes.
looking at a way of doing that in such a way that I could easily store it. My flat is pretty small. We were discussing that before. It was about, what was it,
500 square feet, I believe, yes.
Okay, good. So I need to keep everything in boxes, basically. There's not a lot on display, but I do occasionally get it out, and I get it out for the kids as well. So I was looking for a way to do that. And while brainstorming on the forum, one of the other users, Antonio, he said he'd been working on that same idea, so we exchanged some ideas, and he came up with a description of what we've come to call the Modular Integrated Landscaping System, MILS, right? Exactly. The idea is pretty simple. If you use base plates to put your constructions on, with the rounded corners and the fact that they tend to bend a little bit, it doesn't really look very professional. Okay? If you want to use plates, you run into the problem that they're usually very small, and keeping them together in a consistent way is not that easy. So we came up with a combination. Okay? And the combination looks a bit like this. It's a sandwich. You've got the base plate underneath, you've got the plate on the top, and this is actually half a module. It should be, standard module is 32 by 32. There you are.
Okay.
I find 32 by 16 easier to transport and to store, so I build half modules, and you just click them together with a couple of Technic pins. I'll show you how they're built. You take your base plate, okay, and you put a 2x2 brick on each corner. We use the 2x2 bricks to identify whose the modules are. Okay, mine are red. Other users might be orange or green or purple, or maybe built up in layers with plates. Because the idea is that not only I can store this in my house, but I can take it to an event and just bring along 20 modules and put them on the table next to 10 of yours and 15 of another's, and we can build one big display. And when the event is over, we can easily see what's whose.
Yeah.
And then after that, you just put on your plates. I've got a couple of big ones right now. You'd need some support in between, of course, and you end up having a nice base to work on. Okay.
And so the plates on top, they counteract the flex of the base plate, right?
Yes, it makes it incredibly stable and sturdy. Okay, you put it together, and it's just one single surface. Okay?
That's awesome.
So then we went a little step further and introduced roads.
Okay.
Which are, in this case, 8 wide in the center. Okay, so any road will just connect to this one. We did rivers, which again are 8 wide in the center. And any river will just connect onto this one. Then we went with hills. You can see here.
Yeah.
Just on the back is, nobody lives there, so you don't really have to finish that off too well. And even mountains. Putting on the next module. Okay. The whole idea was described in several different articles in HispaBrick Magazine. And there's also a website that we link to from both the HispaBrickMagazine.com website and the HispaBrick Magazine forum, where the standard is explained. I'll pass you the link so you can put that in the description as well. It's very handy and practical. You can just organize the layout from home and say how many modules are you bringing, what kind of modules are you bringing, how much space will it take up, and we can just make the jigsaw in advance, and when we get to the event, just put everything in place.
It sort of does. It tackles a very logical problem, you know, doing a landscape with more than one person contributing, right?
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. That's fantastic.
Lugs take this even one step further, and they've added a sort of a classic castle modular design to this base by putting their castle walls at a specific distance. Another lug that has increased the idea by putting railway tracks on top and setting a standard for the distances and height of the tracks, so it can really go anywhere. I don't have a module here that I can show you, but we've also made some modules with seas and beach, so it's very expandable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool, and then, like you said, it's perfect for everybody just showing up to the convention, and you've got all this nice layout that you can all put together and make it really cool that way. So, very nice. And I think to finish it out for us tonight, if you want to let people know when the next issue of HispaBrick is going to be released, and is there any content that you know for sure will be in that people can look forward to at this point?
I don't want to give too much away because it's a long way ahead. The next date should be September the 1st. But as I said before, our editor-in-chief, Carlos, he took a step back, and so there's a switch in a lot of different things, and all of us have taken on different responsibilities, and some of them are pretty new, so I'm curious how things will work with the layout this time. It's a whole new experience.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see how it works. It should be okay. It could be 1 or 2 days delayed, but that's a target date right after the August holidays. What will be in the next issue? Well, there will be the usual articles that we have in every issue. There'll be a Mindstorm tutorial, a WeDo tutorial. There will be an interview with a great builder. In this case, I'm not going to say the name, but right, somebody who has recently been featured on Lego Ideas.
Okay.
Yes. What else will we have? There'll be quite some Mindstorms content this time because just lots of things came up, and the rest of it we're still working on it.
Stay tuned.
Okay, yeah. Sounds exciting, though. Sounds like you've already got some good stuff planned for it, though. So you think that should be, if all goes as planned, about September 1st for that?
September 1st, yeah. I just transcribed an interview with a Lego employee. That sounds really interesting.
Okay.
Another thing that we have, a designer.
Awesome.
Very cool.
So some cool stuff to look forward to. So that is, just to remind people one more time, HispaBrick Magazine is the place to go for that, and I'll make sure to have a link to that in the description of this video so you can check that out, and make sure you start following when the new issues come out, and if you're interested, there's plenty of back issues to go check out as well. So I really appreciate you joining us on the show, Jetro. It was great talking with you, learning some more about HispaBrick and some of your own builds there as well. Thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure and real fun. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And thanks everyone out there for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube page here at Beyond the Brick. We've got a lot of really cool content we'll be putting out over the next few months here with convention coverage and more great interviews as well. So subscribe and you'll make sure to never miss a video in the future. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you soon.